Hi, welcome to We Be Laughing Pod, where we vent, we laugh, and we try to navigate through this thing called life together. I'm Sabina Richards, and today we are tackling the universal truth. Adulting is a scam. Yep, it is. It is. I feel very bamboozled. Okay? Okay? It's a scam. Now, disclaimer. Okay, we're going to be talking about some universal truths. So I don't want anyone to say, oh my God, you're just going to be talking about negativity and complaining. And no, that's not what it is. This is a place where we're talking about real stuff, real life that's impacting us. And while we are living it, we've accepted that this is what it is. We want to talk about it, right? And that's where we are today. So now we're adults. And I can recall there was a point in time when I did say to myself, especially someone growing up in a Caribbean household. So I would always say to myself, there would always be a point in time where at some point we always say, you know what, when I get my own place and turn in my own key, can't nobody tell me nothing, because you had to be home a certain time. And sometimes if you got home past that time, them doors was locked, right? Hindsight being 2020, that may not have been the best thing to do or the safest thing to do. But also as a disclaimer, I will be referring to my notes. I may be looking down at sometimes because there are some key things that I do want to touch on this topic. So yeah, we had this facade that being an adult was so great, was so amazing, because maybe for some of us, we did not understand the challenges and the difficulties that our parents faced. We just knew that if we wanted something, well, talking about those of us who were able to get the things that we wanted, right? That if we wanted something, our parents made it happen, or our loved ones made it happen. But on the flip side, if we didn't get what we wanted, then all of a sudden it became, when I'm grown, I'm going to do whatever I want. I'm going to say whatever I want to say. I'm going to I'm going to turn my key here and there. But there was a reality that I don't think many of us were prepared for with this thing called being an adult. It's almost sounded like a curse word. Like, I'm an adult. Yeah? Every single bill that comes to my house is on my name. Why? That's what it means to be an adult? The burnout? The tiredness? I know I measure almost everything with the bill. I do, especially when I have tunnel vision and I'm trying to achieve certain things, or I'm putting myself on a budget, or there's some things that, I need to get done. So everything is looked at from the lens of a bill. So we're going to this specific event or this specific venue. I'm thinking about, okay, how much is that? That's equivalent to what? Yeah, no, I can't do that, right? So that's some aspects of adulting. I know I've definitely gone through those phases, and we're not talking about those individuals who are able to navigate with ease and flawlessness and fabulousness all day, every day. That's wonderful, okay? But there are those of us who just don't have that, okay? We have moments where we're just like, pick somebody else. Pick somebody else, right? I'm not the strongest warrior. Pick somebody else, right? So here's some of the lies. And I know lies, such a strong word, right? The lies that we believe about adulthood, okay? We thought that the adults at the time had it all figured out. Newsflash, they didn't. Same way that some of us don't have it figured out right now. Same way that a lot of us right now, we're just winging it. We're just winging it and wishing a prayer. Wish upon a star. It's above me now. Whatever you want. A lot of us right now, we winging it, okay? So here I can remember an example of when I was just like, you know what, this is real. Like, this adulting thing is real, okay? So that's when I purchased my house. How old is it? 41? Yeah, 30. Right? So I was like, oh yeah, this point, I'm living at home. And my room in my mama's house is practically a bed and a closet because I had more clothes than the room could hold. So I was like, okay, you know what? For my birthday, I want to get myself a house. Right? I'm thankful that I was able to do it back then. But fast forward to when you had to pay that first mortgage payment, and then all the bills were transferred from the seller to your name. Now you look at everything differently. Now I'm looking at everything differently. Okay, turn every light off. Every light gotta go off. We are reading by candlelight. Turn that off. Why am my hand water running? What are you doing? Now I understood. So when I was growing up, there was a limit of time. There was a limit to the length of your shower. Okay, so I'm laughing because I'm thinking about this stuff, and now that I'm older, I'm like, I get it now. I get it. I understand. So there was a limit to how long you could be in that shower and run that water. So you had to wet yourself, okay, turn it off, soap up yourself, rinse, and get out. There was no spa showers, spa days. There was no letting the steamer run. I've definitely taken advantage of those things now that since I've been in my own place. I've definitely taken my, steam, my long showers, my baths, and yes. Okay. And the other thing with chores, when we were growing up, we had chores, right? I know I used to always be like, oh, when I grow up, no one's going to tell me when to clean or what to clean. And I do have to admit, when I first moved into my home, my cleaning schedule, I think I just kind of rebelled against the fact that while I was living at home and I was young, I just had to do what I was told. And so for a little while, I was just like, I'm going to clean whenever I want to, but I couldn't do it. I was back to the cleaning schedule that my mama had me on when I was living at her house, right? So yeah, all bills come on your name. You are responsible for that. As an adult, you are responsible for that rent, that mortgage, that car note. You got a car? You thought it was cool to be riding around in a car as a passenger? Thinking that, you can offer $20 for gas if you did offer gas money, right? Now you understand what it means to have a car, whether you're leasing, financing, or you own. Now you understand, okay? Let's talk about paychecks. When I started working when I was in high school, when I was able to receive my working papers, right? I don't remember my exact age, but we received our working papers in high school. And I started working from the moment I received my working papers, I started working. So I was so excited. Ooh, mind you, they had to make you could only work a certain number of hours. I think it was 20 hours a week, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe it may have been the same, though I don't think they've changed that. Maybe now, who knows? But you only could work a certain number of hours, right? So I thought that when I got my first paycheck, I could do this, I could do that. I think my first paycheck was somewhere between like $30 after they took out whatever taxes that they were allowed to take, because I was still working under my working papers. I said, what is this? What is this? So I get up early, I go to school, and now I go to work. And hindsight being 2020, I've been going to school and working for a long time. Undergrad, high school. I was going to school. I went to school and then worked after school. Undergrad, I worked for the entire time I was at undergrad, and grad, I worked. Man, right? So you work, you put in all these hours, and you expect your paycheck to reflect the way you feel after working because you're so tired. But no, you get this paycheck, and I think sometimes it's probably even the same now as adults. Okay? All right, when we see this paycheck that we done labored to receive, okay, regardless of if your job is manual labor or just sedentary, like, don't hate on somebody because you might be a blue collar worker and they're a white collar worker, right? There are different levels of stress in each category. Each individual earns their paycheck, right? Well, when you get that paycheck, you see city tax, local tax, Medicare, Medicare. And let's say you enroll in company benefits, health benefits, retirement plans, annuities. What do you get? If you get a promotion, okay, now your tax bracket changes. Okay? If you don't have no dependents, good luck. And sometimes even if you do have a dependent, good luck. Married, unmarried, good luck. Right? So when I say adulting is a scam and I feel bamboozled, I'm talking about the perception I was made to believe that all things are great and all things are wonderful, and now I'm here. But you know what? Hindsight being 2020, if we receive certain tools during our childhood and teen years and young adult years to help us prepare for adulthood, especially financial guidance, right? Ooh, I apologize for that shaking. I just hit the table. Especially financial advice. I think that will help a lot of us. I know personally, I did not learn true financial proper financial management, and I'm still learning and still making adjustments to make sure that I don't end up in a negative position. And especially now I have a little Jenclette that I got to make sure that she doesn't end up in a negative position, that she has the tools. And my goal is to make sure that I provide and teach her the things that I wish I would have been taught earlier on. Like right out of the gate in college, your first freshman year, first day on campus, they're coming at you for a credit card. You got to prove for everything. But if you weren't raised very early on or taught very early on how to manage that credit card, then you have a bad experience. Now, you think all credit is bad, right? Or all debt is bad, right? So it depends on it depends on, I guess it's if we're taught proper financial practices from young. So when we get into adulthood, we don't think it's a scam, or we don't think that we've been bamboozled because we've been prepared, right? So that's one of the things. So some adulting fails. I have a couple. So I talked about purchasing my home and have a mortgage. So we know that, once you have a mortgage, you're financed, you're not fully owned because the bank still owns because you're financed, right? So similar to when you have a car, you have certain things you have to maintain. When you have a mortgage, right? You need full insurance. So when you look at your mortgage statement, maybe less than half of what you pay a month in your mortgage will go to your actual principal, right? And this is not a finance class, so I'm just giving you an example of the realization to me. So this is probably why for those of us who have purchased a home or is looking to purchase a home, you may get the advice of, oh, it's always good to make extra monthly payments towards your mortgage to help bring it down, right? So you may or may not hear that. But another example of adulting fail is yes, buy the home, get the home, yay. But now you got home repairs. Wait a minute, hold on, wait a minute. Do you know how much they want to charge you just to come to look at your boiler to see if something is wrong? Like, they didn't fix a thing. They didn't fix not one thing. But it's $100, it's $200 to do for consultation. And once you see a leak, be very afraid. For us homeowners, I don't want to know about leaks. It is the bane of my existence because it's like you have to find out where that thing is. And the more walls you open in your home, the more costly it is, right? So something that I wish I knew more about before purchasing a home is not that I wouldn't have purchased it. I think just being more prepared, right? Okay. I know a lot of times some adulting sorry, excuse me. What's going on here? So another eye opener for me being as an adult, right? And since this eye opener, I've acclimated, and sometimes I rebel and I'm just like, whatever, I don't want to cooking, right? There's such the view that a woman's place is in the kitchen. I don't know if that's still the view. I know when I was growing up, that definitely was a huge mentality that I heard a lot. Now, I grew up in a household where I wasn't required to cook. And I know that may sound crazy as a young girl, but in my family, almost every single person knew how to cook. And I didn't have to cook. I grew up with my parents and my mom, my grandmother, may she rest in peace. My uncles lived close by, my aunts lived close by. And then during that time that I was growing up, Sunday dinners were a big deal. You know, family time was a big deal. So on Sundays, you know, we always had huge family dinners. Even when I first moved into my house, like, I was still getting my weekly pans of food from my family. And at some point I had to be like, all right, y'all, I'm grown. I gotta be able to cook in my own house. All right. I gotta be able to cook in my house. I may need y'all to be on the phone with me to help me because, again, I didn't have to cook growing up in my mama's house. Right? I know some people might say, what? You're a girl? You did? No, I didn't, because the other thing is all the men in my family knew how to cook. So I also got spoiled. And the men, Caribbean men, whoa, let me take this back. For those who were trained and taught to cook, can really cook. They cook really well. And again, my disclaimer, for those who were trained and taught how to cook, and not everybody, because everybody may not be able to do that. Just put it out there. Now I gotta feed myself. I gotta figure out what I'm eating every day. Okay? And now this little chancleta, she spends a lot of time, with my mom and my aunt and my dad. Now she wants Caribbean food. Now, mind you, I was raised in the States. My family, for most of their childhood, grew up back home. So they were raised under my grandmother and was taught all these homemade cooking. Again, growing up in the house, I was not required to be in the kitchen. I go to school, learn your lessons, right? And don't bring no problems to the house. I did that. Why you tell me I need to know how to cook, and then I needed to prep? I needed to know what I was going to cook in advance, so now I need to go grocery shopping every couple of days. It took me a while to get adjusted to that. I'm not even gonna lie. Like that part, it took me a while to get adjusted to, but I had to because I'm like, okay, you're an adult, you're in your home, you want to be somebody's wife, you want to be somebody's mom eventually. You have to feed them. Right? You can't always order food all the time. You gotta feed them, okay? So that was one. Okay, plants, right? Now they say if you can grow a plant or if you can keep a plant alive, you're really great. There was one point when I was able to keep a plant alive. Now I don't know. I have one plant and I'm so tempted to get another one, but I'm just like, this one is doing so well. Why do I want to ruin it? Why do I want to risk it? I think I'm okay. I think I need to just, continue with the one. You got to crawl before you run. But I had so many plants and they look so beautiful, but I would either overwater them or forget about them. Meanwhile, in my mama's house, they all got green thumbs over there except my mama. I love her, but she don't have one. Their plants over there is growing like wildfire. Locking yourself out. Again, growing up in a house full of people, I didn't have to worry about having keys all the time. Now, God forbid, God forbid, this is a 2-income household. Okay? So God forbid we get locked out. God help us. Little examples like that. And sometimes it's not even big things, but sometimes it's a lot of the little things that we don't realize are so impactful in our lives. I don't want to go as far as say we take them for granted. Maybe we do, but one of the things, now that I'm thinking about it, one of the things that is very heavy in Caribbean culture, I don't know if it's heavy in other cultures, maybe it's called other things in other cultures, but there's something in Caribbean culture called a boops or a boopsie. This is someone who provides financial assistance. Okay? Now, hindsight being 2020, we have some of our aunties and even our grandparents, some of them had their friend, right? So that friend would come here and there and, you hear the conversation, oh, this bill needs paying and, I need this done and that done. And you don't know the transactions happen, but hindsight being 2020, oh, shoot. Damn it. There's some money on the side. Now, I don't know what they did for on here on the side. Some books relationships was an exchange. Some was just companionship. There was an understanding because some of these men involved in these had, other relationships. But there was an understanding during the time. So it just made me think about when we thought our parents always had money or auntie or grandma always had money, they always had something tucked in the bra or in the little cookie tin, right? After all the cookies been eaten, there was a little tin somewhere tucked behind something on the shelf where you could always get a little $20, a little $10. We don't know where they used to get their little $10 and a little $20. We just knew it was there. Right? So now we got to do the new this? Nuh-uh. I don't have the wherewithal and the patience to boops nobody. I ain't got no time. Back in the day it was something different, but right now I ain't got no time. I ain't doing that. But just think about things that we took for granted or not took for granted, or maybe yeah, or things that we were not aware of, right? That our parents or grandparents or aunties, uncles, whomever, raised us, so we were around all the time, what they had to do to survive or to make it seem as if it was easy for us. And now, fast forward to some of us, or many of us, are now doing those same things, maybe in different ways, right? Another thing in the Caribbean that's big is something called susu. I do not know the American phrase or the American terminology. If someone knows what it is, then please enlighten us. Put it in the comments under the Instagram page or YouTube. Let us know. I do recall that during the pandemic, there was something similar. It was, I don't know the name, but I'm thinking of a description of like petals. I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong. But there were so many different things that came up in the pandemic. This was a version of a susu. So for example, you have a certain number of people, let's say 5, and those 5 people will put $100 every week, and then at the end of, I guess, the month, so let's say the goal was $500, right? So each individual would put their $100. When it gets to 500, let's say Jane is the first person scheduled to get that money. Jane gets that 500. Jane has to keep putting that money into that pot until the next group of people, that next person gets their money. So that's a description of a susu. And I know there was something very similar to that taking place during the pandemic. I'm going to have to look into it. Let me make a note. So there was an equivalent of that. So with Caribbean people, that's something that's done very often because it's a way to have a bulk of money, well, lump sum, I should say, at once, in addition to your paycheck. So it's a supplement to your paycheck because there's just so many things coming. The paycheck is not enough or may not have been enough to cover those expenses. So I would hear, and I was aware of that being done all the time. And I think it's still done. I think people still do it. It's still a practice that's very beneficial to individuals if you're able to do it in addition to your other bills, because once you get your lump sum of money, you still have to keep putting in your agreed upon amount so that the other individuals can get theirs. I think I did one of those one time, and I was just like, this is not for me. Because once I get my money, I want my money. Right? But if your mentality is like mine, then you can't be in a susu like that, because then the other individuals are at a loss because then you don't want to put in your money, right? So now other people might have to double up. Or I've never heard though of anybody having to pay back the susu if they dropped out after getting their full hand. I've never heard of that. I think the other individuals just either double up so that it's not fair to the next person who's in line to get their money, or the next person gets a loss. I think it's one of those. I'm not sure. So if someone knows a little bit more about how that works, but that was a way that our parents, aunts, uncles, I keep shaking, I'm so sorry, was able to supplement their income. Right? All of this stuff they did as adults that we didn't know. This was another way that they had cash on hand all the time. We knew a lot of people did not believe in the bank, so they put a lot of money under the mattress, right? That was very big back then. I don't know if it's still happening now. Who knows, right? But some just, when you think about adulting, I'm thinking about it from the lens of, when I think of what I witnessed growing up, or now that I'm adult and I'm experiencing these things, and I'm responsible for every single bill that comes to the house, every single repair that needs to be done. If the city does something on the sidewalk, then I'm responsible for it. They'll do whatever, but then the homeowner has to be responsible for it, right? Now that I'm adult, I'm like, well, how did they do it back in the day? How did they do it? Oh my goodness, right? So, as you guys are listening to these things, leave some comments. give me some examples, or if you are in agreement, or if you can recollect anything from your childhood in comparison to now that you're an adult, right? Anything that you can compare that to. I just think it's very interesting that everything comes back full circle, right? So some things that I do to help me in this adulting that we have to now be the new adults, right? We're the new adults. So I was very much, yes, I was against automating your bills, but there are some instances where it's beneficial. I do not automate utility bills. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm not that much of an adult just yet to automate utility bills, because these utility bills come, they take them out the week they do. So I attempted, here's why. I remember now. And the same thing happened when I attempted to automate my cable bill at the time. Utility company, well, I'm not going to say all utility companies, I don't know, but the one that I use, when I set up the automation, they took that money 1 week before it was due. And after that, I said, I wish you would one more time. The way I went and canceled that auto pay for that utility bill, oh, no. Now I want to see. Now you're going to get the money when it was due. They took that money a week in advance. The cable company did the same thing. And I can't even remember the explanation they provided because it was just so janky to me. I was like, the fact that you said this and you think that it's acceptable is alarming. Yeah, so that's why I don't do auto pay for certain bills. But there are other bills that I do have on auto pay, such as my car insurance, car note, my cell phone, but no, the cell phone bill, I want to look at those too. So there are certain things that I would recommend putting on auto pay, right? So that helps to ease the stress, for lack of a better term. The other thing that I do, I put myself on a budget, right? For me personally, as an example, I get paid bi-weekly. So I look at the bills that I have that are due that first half of the month, and I go off of my paycheck, the date that we get paid, and I set my budget up accordingly, right? So that's another thing that I do. And I do my best to leave money aside for wellness, because we need to put that in our budget as well. And when I think about wellness, I think about if we have a gym membership, some employers give you a reimbursement for your gym membership. I also have a flexible spending account plan. So that is for if you have to go to, let's say, for doctor's appointments, for prescription medication. And then also the FSA site has a lot of different items that are covered under that. So the flexible spending account is something that it's a benefit if your company has it or your corporation offers that. Definitely look into it. No one's saying to enroll in it, but I'm just telling you ways in which I do things that makes it easier for me. So I've enrolled in our flexible spending account, definitely dependent care, now that I have a little chicleta. These are, I say chicleta because my daughter is part Dominican, from Dominican Republic. Her dad is Dominican Republic and Black. So I say chicleta, so I don't want to offend anyone or be derogatory, but I'm specifically referring to my daughter and our situation. So I just want to be clear on that. So what was I talking about? Things that I do to help when it comes with my budgeting, right? So you put monies aside in the FSA program, the dependent care program. Those are funds that you can put on a pre-tax basis directly out of your paycheck for different either healthcare expenses or dependent care expenses. If you're interested in that, you can speak with your employer to see if they have that as an option. with cooking. So I'm inconsistent with the cooking. I'm going to be very honest. I'm inconsistent. I used to not like cooking. I guess because I was never raised into it, so it is not completely natural for me, but I do cook. And I think it's important that if we're talking about finances and spending, or trying to, refrain from going over certain financial limits that we set for ourselves, food is a huge expense. And just grocery shopping in and of itself is easily $300. And then you will look in your cart and you'll be like, what did I buy for $300? And you might have to do that again in a week or two. So it's not beneficial, and I'm talking to myself here. We're in this together. It's not beneficial to always be ordering out when you're buying groceries, when you're spending money on groceries. So this also requires some time management, right? Because cooking takes time. So when you meal prep, I've never been really successful with meal prep, but I used to be able to eat like the same food for like the whole week, but I cannot do that anymore. So when I'm cooking, I have to cook new food like every 2 days. I may not cook every day, but when I'm in that cooking mode, I'm cooking at least every 2 days a week, right? So that means our groceries are being used up. So that means your grocery costs might increase. So we can't always go out to dinner. We can't always do certain outside things, but then you put that in your budget, right? Those are just, again, examples of what I do to help in this aspect. The other thing that I find that I do a lot, I Google a lot. Almost everything is what do people say now? Almost everything is Googleable, right? Because a lot of our older generation, they're passing away, and we don't have a lot of stuff written down for a lot of herbal remedies or how you do certain things. So you're Googling and hoping that this information is on Google. Now, ChatGPT is here too. So, I don't know if it's a fight for supremacy. I don't know. But, now we have different tools to assist with this whole information stage now. Right? So a lot of times we're just out here Googling. We're just out here figuring it out. We're literally just figuring it out, right? So I just gave some examples. I think finances are a big deal, because if we're unable to maintain the necessities that we need, then we have a problem, right? So a lot of times, and I've gone through these phases where I'm just like, well, I want to do this, knowing that it may not be beneficial for other things in the long run. I am out of that phase. Thank the Lord, because it's always fun in the moment, but then when the what does it say, when the lights come on and you have to look at yourself, you'll be like, what in the was I thinking? What's wrong with me? I'm out here acting like everything is all great, right? So if we want to look at it from the lens of adulting is a scam, because let's say we may not have been prepared for adulting, that's one way you can look at it. You can also, from my lens, from my vantage, I'm looking at it from the point of, why they didn't prepare me? Why they didn't tell me that this is challenging right now? It's hard. I can't buy you this. This is how it really is when you get older. This is what you're really going to have to do. It's not all rainbows and sunshine, right? Why didn't they tell me, right? So that's the lens that I'm looking at it from. So what lens, when you hear the phrase, adulting is a scam, right? What comes to mind? I would love to hear from you, right? So reach out to me. Tell me what your thoughts are. Again, so Today's episode, we talked about adulting is a scam. We looked at it from the lens of when we were children growing up, and what we thought, the perception that we saw, as opposed to the reality. And now that we're adults and we're living in the reality based off the perception, which is not equivalent. So anyway, adulting is messy, but we're not failing. We're not failing. We're not losers. We're not none of that. All of us are taking it one by one, step by step, day by day. I would say one by one. All of us are taking it step by step, day by day, and figuring it all out as it comes. And it may look different for me than it looks for you, than it looks for someone else, right? So it's important for us to focus on our own selves, run our own race, not be so concerned about what the other person is doing or what the other person thinks or how this might look to them, or no one cares. Worry about yourself, worry about your life, do what's best for you, and that's it, right? So thank you so much for watching and for listening. Thank you for being here with us today. I think I just had a brain freeze for a moment. So let's do that again. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys next Thursday for another episode of We Be Life in Pod.